What's shaking, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay, and today we're going to do something new on the channel. During the months that I'm not vlogging, I decided to do a weekly kind of recap for you guys of what I have been reading, what I plan on reading next, maybe what I've been watching, what I've been listening to, what's been going on in my life, maybe a bookish topic that I find myself thinking about this week. So this is the first episode of that. I will leave timestamps down below so you can skip to what you want to hear. And of course, we're going to start with the books and what I've read this month. So the first thing that I picked up was a very, very high priority of mine, and that's going to be An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. It is a big chunky boy. This is the second book in the series that starts with The Shadow of What Was Lost. And I can say now, without a shadow of a doubt, that this fantasy series, as it stands right now, is my favorite fantasy series ever. It gets compared a lot to Wheel of Time. I can see it. I can also see that Michael Kramer narrates the audiobook, which can sometimes, because Michael Kramer also narrates the Wheel of Time, so there is some similarities for sure. I would say that this book is a lot more fast-paced, action-heavy, and unfortunately Wheel of Time, I love these characters better than yours. But still loving Wheel of Time, but I love this series. I can't tell you much about the second book in the series, but I'll tell you about the first book, which is The Shadow of What Was Lost. This follows multiple characters. We start out in this magical school setting. In this world now, magic users are not looked upon very highly in the main areas of the world. They have their place in the world and things that they do in the world to help the citizens out, but overall they're not looked at very highly. Our main character, Davian, he knows he has magic because he has the magical mark, but he has not been able to conjure and use magic as he should. However, he is showing signs of having some sort of forbidden magic. The problem is, if he is not able to produce magic and pass the trials, he will be stripped of all his magic forever and become what they call a shadow. The night before the trials, these higher up people that are coming to conduct the trials come and say, we're going to do the trials early. So Davian, of course, is very stressed. But one of those higher up people come to him and say, hey, I know that you have this forbidden magic and it's okay. It's okay. Take this magical box and it's going to take you somewhere where you can figure out about this magic. So, of course, Davian, yes, he's going to go because he knows that if he doesn't, he will most likely be stripped of his magic because he's not going to be able to pass the trials. So he trusts this man, this higher up being in politics, and he says, I'm going to go find this box. The problem is if you leave school campus and you get caught leaving school campus, you get made a shadow and stripped of your magic. So his best friend comes and says, I'm not going to let you go by yourself. First of all, you don't have any magic. You can't manifest your magic to protect yourself. You need somebody to help you do that, and I'm going to go with you. So off these two boys go to follow this magical cube. Then we have their third best friend, who they leave behind, unfortunately. And she wakes up the next morning after the two boys have left. She doesn't know that they have left. And she wakes up and realizes that everybody in school has been murdered. So she wakes up to this vicious, vicious murder scene. And she thinks her two best friends, who have actually left school campus to go follow this magical cube, she thinks that they have also been murdered, and the story starts from there. And there are so many politics in this world, and so many just awesome characters, and the way and the action, and it's perfectly plotted. I already own the third book on audio, but I don't yet own the physical copy, so I immediately went and purchased the physical copy. Super excited, can't wait to get into the third book. So after reading that chunky boy, I decided that I needed a kind of a palette cleanser. So I decided to continue on with another series, one that I started last month, and that is The Bloodless Princes by Charlotte Bond. The first book in the series is The Fireborn Blade, little short novellas, and The Fireborn Blade I gave 5 stars when I read it last month. I absolutely loved it. Like, I thought it was just going to be, run-of-the-mill fantasy novella, and it was not. It had twists and turns and things that completely shocked me, and it turned itself on its head, and I loved it. So I read this one. So we are, of course, I can't tell you again too much about this one, but I gave this one, I wound up giving this one 4 stars. By the way, I gave this 5 stars, of course, but I gave The Bloodless Princes 4 stars. It didn't wow me as much as the first one, but it did wow me. If you don't know what this story follows, in our first story, The Fireborn Blade, we are following this girl who has done some wrongs in her life, and what she's going to go do to try to make it up to the people, to try to make it right, is go steal one of the most sought out swords ever. People want the sword, and nobody really has the gumption and gall to go and steal this sword because it is hidden basically right next to this badass dragon. And I love the dragons in this world, but this is basically her journey of kind of a heist journey of stealing this badass sword from this badass dragon, and I loved it. Ate it up. 100% recommend this novella duology. Then I decided to continue going on with my goals and continuing series. So I picked up The First Ancestor by J.D.L. Roselle. The first book in the series is The Last Ranger, which I reread last month so that I could continue on, and I now have continued on, and I loved this one as well. Gave it 4 stars. J.D.L. Roselle is a self-published author. I have read his whole Legend of Tao series, and this is the second series I've read by him. He has other series, but y'all, people are sleeping on self-published authors because J.D.L., in my mind, he could be trad published. In fact, I think his prose is a lot better than a lot of trad published authors, and the way his words just flow, and it has such an even kind of character and plot, so it's not heavily character focused, heavily plot focused. It's just has such a good even balance, and the way that he writes is just phenomenal. I would highly recommend checking out his work, but this is the second book in the series. It's going to be a 5-book series. The third one is out, the fourth one is coming out in April, and then the last one is coming out in 2026. So he writes pretty fast. He puts his books out in timely manners. But I read this book. So what this story is about is we are following our main character, Leyen. And she's a very rash individual, but she is a ranger of the Titan Wilds, which basically she goes and protects her village from these huge beasts that come up from the earth that live in this forest. And one day after a mission, she comes back to her village and finds them all slaughtered. So the first book is her revenge story, trying to figure out who slaughtered her people, what's going on, and you just kind of see her grow as a character. We are still seeing her grow as a character in here. I think a lot of people, she is very rash, and the thing is that people think that, oh, he just wrote this really terrible character that is unlikable because of how rash she is. I think that it's actually very, very realistic that young characters can be naive and rash, and she even admits it. She's like, I've got to calm down, I've got to learn to hold my temper, and you kind of just see her grow up, and this was more greatness, and I 100% recommend this series. Also, look at this. Look at this naked hardcover. Is this not stunning? I love the way that self-published authors sometimes are doing their books. Beautiful naked hardcover. It has illustrations in it. Let me show you one. So it has like illustrations, some illustrations. Beautiful work. I also went and purchased the third book in this series because I really enjoy it and hope to read it soon. So 100% read this. So that's all that I have completed. So what am I going to read next? My plans are to read a palette cleanser now that I've read a bunch of fantasy, read something different. I'm going to probably read The Island by Adrienne McKenty, which I pulled out of my jars. So you'll notice that all of these books that I've talked about so far, I did not pull out of my jars. If you don't know about my TBR jars, I will link March's TBR jars up here, but I didn't pull anything I've read so far out of the jars because once I pick from the jars, I then go and put holds on the things I need to put holds on from the library, and so I wait for those holds to come in. So I do have The Island by Adrienne McKenty, which is what I pulled out of my backlist jar, so that's probably going to be my palette cleanser. And then from there, a hold came in for what I pulled out of my owned jar, which is going to be The Gods Below by Andrea Stewart. Now, this is her newest book. It's the first in her new trilogy, I believe. The Drowning Empire, which was the first trilogy she wrote, I read book 1, which is The Bone Shard Daughter. I thought it was okay. I gave it 4 stars at the time, but I just never continued on. And then I heard such terrible things about the rest of the series that I just put it down and didn't really care to pick it back up. But I'm willing to give this a try, even though people have not said the best things about this book. However, y'all know that I am different. I like things that other people don't. So normally, if something is lower rated or it's not getting the best reviews, that's my cup of tea. Why? I don't know. I don't even know what this book is about. It says, The Gods Below begins an epic new fantasy series from Andrew Stewart, where 2 sisters find themselves on opposite sides of a war against gods. So I'm not quite sure the whole synopsis, but again, this is a Fairy Loot edition. This is a special edition. And look at this naked hardcover. Look at this naked hardcover. I'm not a fan really of the sprayed edges, and I'm not really a fan. I mean, this cover is okay. It also has a reversible cover, which I'm not really a fan of people on the cover. But this naked hardcover, I love. So this brings me the question to y'all. When you have a book where you love the naked hardcover, what do you do with these dust jackets? Of course, I'm not going to throw them away, but how do you store them? How do you store them so that they don't get messed up? Inquiring minds, like myself, need to know. But I think this is gorgeous. And so this is my main goal of this coming up week. So I will read The Island by Adrian McKenty, and then I will move into The Gods Below by Andrea Stewart. Normally, I have a lot more time to read than I will next week, because next week I'm carpooling to work at least 3 days a week. And normally I get a lot of my reading done on my commute. So because I'm carpooling 3 days out of the 5, I won't get as much reading time, but I feel like I can probably finish this. It's 500 and something pages, but I'm looking forward to seeing what I think about this. So that's what I'm going to read coming up. As far as what I have watched, let's talk about that. I have been off of work this week, which has been fantastic. I've loved it. Sad to go back, but I have watched a little bit of things too. So I watched the Gabby Petito documentary that is on Netflix. I don't really have any thoughts on it. I think everybody knows the story of Gabby Petito. It's a terrible story. I also then watched the Scott Peterson documentary on Netflix, which again, everybody knows that story, but very, very sad story. And it just kind of like refreshed my mind on that case, because it's been quite some time since that happened. And actually my husband had never even heard of the case, but that's because my husband doesn't pay attention to things like that. But I also watched the first episode of Suits LA. Now, if you are a Suits fan, what did you think of this episode? Okay, first of all, I watched Arrow with Stephen Amell, and I didn't watch all of it because when it jumped the shark, and y'all know when it jumped the shark, when it jumped into the future, that was when it jumped the shark, and I didn't watch after that. But I kind of followed him personally, and some of the things that he would do and say were kind of very assholey, and I just started not to like him as a person. And so I kind of can't and he may not be an asshole. This was a long time ago that I used to follow him on social media and things. But I watched Suits LA and I was not impressed. I just did not connect with any of the characters. The great things about Suits was I connected with the characters immediately, and I connected with the story immediately, and this time I really didn't. I didn't so much. So that's what I watched. I don't think there was anything else. Oh, me and my husband watched the Valerian movie, which we never saw, which was such a bomb at the box office. I thought it was okay, but I really thought that it was really, really long. It was long-winded, and I thought the plot sometimes was everywhere. So that was a thing. We also watched Despicable Me 4. We watched that with kids, and that was really fun. We had a fun time with that because we hadn't seen it yet. I think that's it. I think that is all that I watched this week. Again, I watched more than I normally do because I was off of work, but next week I probably won't watch anything at all. Now, what I listen to, so music is also it's my jam. I love music. If I'm not listening to an audiobook, I have music on for sure. And a lot of people probably don't know what kind of music I listen to, or you think you do by just looking at somebody, but you don't. I have this past week been listening to Beartooth. Now I love Beartooth. It's probably the most metal hardcore band that I listen to. Like the screamo portion of that. I'm normally like just a regular rock kind of girly. But I love Beartooth, and I was listening to it in anticipation for going to one of their concerts in May. However, I'm not going to be able to go now, I don't believe, so we'll talk about that in a second of what has come up. But I still love Beartooth, and so I've been listening to them, and that's what I've been listening to this week. As far as what's been going on in my life, besides everything else that I talked about, I was so excited. I was like, yeah, we're gonna get to go on this, and I was gonna have to take off a day to go to Beartooth, but unfortunately, I got news this week that I'm actually going to need oral surgery, so I'm not going to be able to take off any extra days to go to anything else, because I'm going to have to take days off to go to have surgery, which is very disheartening. I don't even know what to say. It's just very disheartening. I am very sad about it. But with that being said, so I have my consultation for the surgery on March the 28th. And then from there, I'll know exactly when surgery is scheduled. So I'll keep y'all updated. I won't be able to make videos during that time because oral surgery. But that's a little ways off. Probably in April. I'm going to try to push it back to May. What else has been going on? Well, you can see behind me that my bookshelves are kind of bare. They're bare. I actually have about 4 shelves looking all about that I don't have any books on. And where did all my books go? Well, I bought 2 bookshelves to go on each side of our TV stand to kind of, round out my living room. We did remodel the house, and I haven't brought all the furniture that I need to buy to kind of fill it back up. And so I did that. The goal was to put all my special editions out there in the living room for the world to see, even though we don't have a lot of guests at our house. But so that's where most of my books went, because I have a lot of subscriptions. I have Broken Binding Fantasy, Broken Binding Sci-Fi, and Fairy Loot. And then I buy books from Kickstarters. So I have a lot of shelf space now. And now I have to rearrange the bookcases in here, but I have a lot of room for new books. And again, I just brought 2 new books because I brought The Hidden Guardians, which is the 3rd book in this series, and I brought the 3rd book and the last book in this series. So I did buy 2 books this week that are on their way to me. I also did participate in the Audible series sale because there are 2 books on there that are Audible exclusives, I think, that I can never, I can't get them from the library. So I brought the 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent and the new, I can't remember what the book is called, I'll pop it up here, but it's a series of duologies, I think, and this is the start of the new duology, but I'm counting it as a series. So in order to complete my series, I needed that audiobook. And so I did buy that audiobook. I also bought Delilah Wan's Petition audiobook because it was on Chirp and it was for sale, and I already own that book on Kindle, like I own the ebook, and I love indie authors, so I purchased that so I can listen to that when I need to. I also brought 2 books from Book of the Month. I have credits from Book of the Month. I'm trying to cancel Book of the Month, but I had too many credits, so I need to use up all my credits before I finally just cancel. So I got The Infinite Fates this month, and then you got the free Book of the Year nominee, and I picked, hell, I don't even know what I picked. I'll pop it up here what I picked. I can't remember at this point in time what I picked. That is a shame. But I'll pop it up here. This video is already really long, but let me talk about something that has been on my mind in the bookish space. Something bookish. That is, and I can make a whole video about this, but let's talk about special editions, because the reason why it's on my mind is because I have all these special editions that I moved out to the living room. Do y'all feel like the special edition craze has just gone off the wall? Now, we used to have special editions, but we did not have special editions nearly as much as we do now. We had special editions of beloved series like Game of Thrones or Harry Potter or, you know, other beloved series, but not every single book getting sprayed edges in a special edition, which to me could be a good or bad thing. So we had the rise of the book box, and we had a few companies that scattered some special editions, and then we had more and more and more and more and more book boxes. Like, there is an astronomical amount of special edition book boxes out there at this current moment, which is crazy, and there is steady having more come out. So I think the special edition craze, number one, TikTok definitely contributed to the rise of the special edition. There are books that are actively coming out with the first printing that they're coming out with just in a regular store like Walmart or Amazon or whatever, coming out with sprayed edges. Okay, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. For some people who just love the sprayed edge look, love that kind of thing, then that is fine. But I do think that it sometimes may be pricing the average reader out of buying books. I do think that the book industry and the rise of the special edition has definitely helped the book industry. TikTok has helped the book industry. We are seeing Barnes and Nobles and all these stores actually building stores this year because we are selling physical books again, which is, you know, a fantastic thing to see, and I'm happy to see it. However, I want people to be able to buy books, and I think that the more work you put into a book, the more it is going to cost. So if you're not selling just a plain Jane paperback with no sprayed edges, no nothing, you know, and you're selling it, you know, maybe you can afford it. But when you add on a sprayed edge or maybe some under the dust jacket artwork, it's going to increase the cost. And I don't mind there being special edition books, absolutely not. However, let's not make the first print run of a book a special edition book. That's all I'm asking. Have a regular version. That way more people can partake. I do think that Fourth Wing for sure contributed to the rise of the sprayed edge and everybody wanting sprayed edge on their book. And there's also nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting a special edition of every single book that you own or every single book you want to buy. I know a lot of people are concerned about this special edition craze and how it's going to affect the overall price of the book in the future, and it's nothing special if everybody has a special edition and da 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 da. I'm not worried about that because the special editions I buy, I'm not selling. I'm not upcharging these books. I'm not selling these books. I'm not making money off these books. I have these books because I want to read them and because they're going to stay on my shelves. Now, the Fairy Loot books that I have bought, I don't know why I look back there. I don't have them anymore. But the Fairy Loot books that I don't like, I sell for probably under what I bought them for on Pango Books. Okay? I don't like sit here and upcharge them and try to get all this money. There's no point in that. But I also understand buying special editions of books you love. I wish I had a special edition of every 5-star read that I had because it would just sit on my shelves to look pretty. I would never sell that book. I would never do anything with that book. I'm not in it to make money, and so I don't really care that the value is going to be brought down because there's all these special editions. I don't care. Most people that own books want their bookshelves also to be pretty, or some people do. Some people care about that. They want their bookshelves to be pretty. They want them to be curated to what they love, what they like, and to have special editions of their favorite books. And I am no different. I just feel like my only concern is that you're pricing some people out of buying physical books if every single book that you put out has these special edition features to them. I also don't like when Walmart has this special edition with this extra chapter and Barnes and Noble has this special edition with this different chapter, and Amazon has this special edition with this chapter. I mean, that is ridiculous to get more people to just buy multiple copies of special edition books because of the special content in them. Of course, I would never do that, but some people actually are doing that. To each their own, but I wouldn't do that. I just don't know how the special edition trend is going to go. I looked last year, like just in a random month, like say January. I looked last year and there was like 30 special editions on the special edition list. You look this year in the same month, January 2025, there's 80 something special editions on the special edition January list. Like, Why do we need 80 special editions coming out each month? And that does not include any of the book box subscriptions. That's just literally books that are being sold on the shelves or separately by companies, but no book box books are on that list of 80 something books having a special edition. With that being said, there are some special editions that I personally want coming up. So I made kind of a list of special editions that I would like to purchase in the future, and I may talk about them later, but at this point in time, this video has gone on so very long. I could make a whole video about upcoming special editions and what I want to buy, but they're all books I really love. There are a couple of Kickstarters that I have brought from indie Kickstarters. I have done the Kickstarter of the Legend of Tall series by J.L. Roselle, and I will continue to buy those books. They're beautiful. They're leather bound, beautiful book. And then I have the Sword of Kaigen Kickstarter and my Brandon Sanderson Kickstarters. But that's the only books that I've backed, I think, from Kickstarter. Although I'm about to back another one because it's beautiful. But anyway, that's besides the point. Okay, I have rambled enough. Let me know what you guys think about special editions. What have you guys been reading this week? What do you plan to read? Let me know all of the goodness down in the comments below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.